Welcome to this short introduction to the EXCiPACT certification scheme in this COVID-19 affected world. In this session, I'd like to explain how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted pharmaceutical supply chains and how EXCiPACT is a solution to at least the aspect of auditing of excipients. We are living in a new reality now, both in terms of the constraints brought about by the pandemic and now in many countries, the hopes that vaccines will help us return to a new normality in the near future. What the COVID-19 pandemic has done is to identify just how fragile and lengthy some of our supply chains have been. They cover the entire world, but this has been brought to the forefront by all of the disruptions caused by the pandemic. But now, as economies restart and the constraints are lifted, there will be even more pressure on these supply chains from the released pent-up demand. During the pandemic, if you needed to go and audit your excipient supplier, could you? Certainly not. During national lockdowns, travel was all but impossible. For many countries, it is still difficult. Although now, where there are low infection rates and high levels of vaccination, these restrictions are being relaxed. But it is not just customers auditing suppliers. Even healthcare authorities, such as the FDA, have had to suspend on-site inspections. That situation has eased a little, nation to nation, but is nowhere back to where it used to be, especially for international travel. Many organizations may also still be prohibiting visitors from coming on site, but of course, personal safety has to come first in all of these matters. But even if you can get a chance to visit your excipient supplier, what would you find on arrival at the audit? Would you be greeted by people taking social distancing measures? Are you more likely to still be interacting virtually with the non-essential site personnel such as the QA teams? Most likely the only people on site will be the operational personnel. So you will have a very limited audit regardless, even if you can get on site. The solution to maintaining audits and inspections has been to use internet technology to hold virtual meetings. Even the regulatory agencies are making use of these remote auditing techniques. So, this is encouraging for the rest of us as well. But despite these issues, there has been an incredible acceleration in the development, manufacture, approval, and distribution of effective COVID-19 vaccines and diagnostics. Project Warp Speed was well named because, as many of us know, those who are involved in the development of solutions to cope with COVID-19, time is imperative. We have not been able to apply the normal timelines. So there are many delayed, deferred, and otherwise backlogged audits required across the industry. Once the restrictions are eased, are the audited sites going to be able to cope with the increased demand? Will there be enough auditors to meet the requirements for all the audits? And then, as we've mentioned, with social distancing and travel bans in effect, GMP, GDP audits, and vendor selection visits may still be impacted as not all of the supplier's employees may be fully back to work. These factors have led to higher and higher risks, of course, for qualifying excipient suppliers and maintaining their status in your system. There have, however, been changes to regulatory expectations, and the regulators have been sensitive to these difficulties and are able to allow some latitude where we have not been able to follow our own procedures. In addition, the realization of the fragility of the global supply chains has led to an effort to reduce dependence on remote suppliers and to source locally wherever possible. More supplier qualifications are needed, thus more difficult in scheduling and conducting audits. This was happening before the pandemic, and now has been accelerated, of course, by the situation. The challenge is, how do we move fast without compromise to regulations or quality? EXCiPACT can help here with some aspects and can provide a relief to some of the pent-up demand. It's there in waiting. There are over 130 excipient certification holders worldwide from excipient manufacturers and suppliers who hold EXCiPACT certificates and audit reports. They are waiting to release those to their customers. You can see a list of selected countries where EXCiPACT certification holders exist, and that includes the USA, Mexico, as well as a large part of Europe and the Far East. If you go to the EXCiPACT website, then you can identify the company by name, as shown in the example here, where we have redacted the company name. But if you go onto the website, you can see the full details. And you can also see the plant address and their certificate details by clicking on the drop-down box. You will get even more information, and you can see what activity the supplier provides and the services that they offer in the excipient market. You can see details about their certificate, like when it was originally issued, when it will expire, and the registration number. If you directly contact the organization concerned using the link on the website, you will be able to request access to their EXCiPACT certificate, audit report, and CAPA plan, if any. Here you can see an example of an EXCiPACT certificate redacted to protect the company's name. And you can see the full details that were reported on the website as well. Audits are done by one of the certifying bodies who have been qualified and approved by EXCiPACT. However, there are other certifying bodies who can conduct EXCiPACT audits, issuing certificates and audit reports. Here we see an example of a surveillance audit report that came from SGS, typical of the ones provided by all of the EXCiPACT certifying bodies. The excipient supplier will make these available for you as part of the evidence that you require to qualify the supplier. These audit reports can be comprehensive and quite lengthy, containing a lot of information and details about the organization and what the auditor observed. Therefore, EXCiPACT is an optimum solution, which is available and on the shelf now for you to go and to utilize as part of your excipients supplier qualification. It is an established, high-quality, and reliable third-party excipient GMP and GDP certification program. It covers manufacturing and distribution, including the latest annex for closed-packed excipients, which are held and transited through warehouses. Its unique features are that it was developed by suppliers and users of excipients. So this is just not suppliers getting together and seeing how they can reduce the audit burden. Both parties collaborated to achieve a high-quality, highly reliable, fully transparent, unbiased, and independent excipient certification program. It is a voluntary certification program in that the excipient supplier has a choice whether to adopt it or not, but the benefits to the supplier and the users are huge, being of great value to both parties. This makes it very cost-effective for all concerned, but without compromise to quality standards. EXCiPACT's oversight is to ensure this certification is applied consistently on a global level, with optimum reliability in all regions and countries. The suppliers, their certificates, and audit reports are available, so why not use them now to accelerate the supplier approval process?